What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. But this time, we're talking about the Red Bull. Nope. We have to talk about the United States men's national team and just their atrocious, atrocious is the only way you can put it right now, start to this group stage, really putting us on the brink of extinction. So, at least from the tournament. Tried to use really, really intense words and used one that said that we're never going to play a men's national team again. I might have slipped there. But hope everybody's doing well. Really, I don't have any notes for this. I think it's just going to be kind of like a 45-minute rant all and see where it goes from there. So I'm here with Connor. Connor, how you doing?
Better. I'm doing better than the USMNT.
Yeah, it's not hard to do.
That's true.
No, it's not. We are. I think what we do is we should just sit in and go through both games that we've played so far. We are recording this on Friday. It will go out Monday, Monday before the game.
We could do Monday before the
Yeah,
game.
I'll do Monday before the game, and then they'll play Uruguay, and we'll see where we go from there. But they have beaten Bolivia 2-0, which again was not hard to do. They got a shameful display against Panama 2-1 last night. We'll break down both games. We'll give our thoughts, our opinions, and then we'll do a little preview of the Uruguay game, and then we'll move on and cross our fingers, hope for the best. So before we do any of that, of course, score for the week time. What you got?
I've got questions, is what I've got. What are you teaching them in Red Bull camp, huh? Do you just teach them violence, huh? Smack
You're
people in the
really
head?
gonna pin this on the Red Bull.
Yeah, you take credit for when your players play there for half a second. So you got to take responsibility for the consequences too. What are you teaching them over there in Red Bull land, huh?
You got Red Bull land. Of course, I have broken out upside down, mess up the glasses. US Copa America, all fitting, all on brand, all disappointing. Starting with a game that we probably should have won a lot more than 2-0 against Bolivia. We got out of the game. How did you feel, Connor?
A little bit disappointed, but at the same time, with depending on results of the next two games, it could have definitely been fine. Like you go into the Bolivia game and you expect the team to win like 4-5-0, which is what Uruguay did. You would think that's the level that the US would be at. However, they won 2-0. You can complain a little bit, but at the end of the day, whether you win 2-0 or 4-0, there's not a ton of difference in the result, at least as of game one. So I didn't really have too many complaints after game one. Got the job done. Had our moments where we looked strong, had our moments where we looked a little lazy, but I felt good after game one. You know, all we had to do was take 3 points against Panama and we were into the next round. So it was what we had talked about previously when we previewed the whole group stage. We said, take your first 6 points and don't even sweat the Uruguay game. But I won't jump the card this week. So I won't say
Oh,
anything
good.
about Panama. I'll leave it at that.
Good. Yeah, listen, there were a lot of bright spots in that Bolivia game in terms of chance creation, in terms of getting the ball in dangerous areas, things that we haven't seen from this team in a while. And again, against Bolivia, you expect those things to happen. The problem was that none of them went in the goal except for two, and they were. The Pulisic goal was fantastic. Obviously, the set piece goal was brilliant. Balogun gets on the end of something that was a little. It wasn't super pretty, super clean, not like his Panama goal. Now I'm going to jump the gun there,
Okay.
um, but it was enough, right? It did its job, and it gave us a 2-0 lead, and we were happy about it, right? So what was disappointing to me was the fact that we showed that we don't have the players off the bench to, how do I put this properly? Um,
Kill off a game.
yeah, or to step up to the level, like the drop off between players 1 to 11 and then player 13 is massive, right? And again, we talk about it, and again, I think Balogun has kind of started to break that mold a little bit. But anybody who puts on the number 9 shirt for the United States men's national team, and I use that positionally, not literally the number 9, but anybody who puts that on struggles, cannot find the back of the net. Doesn't matter how many goals you score in whatever league you're in, they cannot score. And Ricardo Pepi was prime example A of that, where I mean, how many sitters on the goal step did he have that just would not go in the goal? And that was kind of the bad omen, if you will. But I mean, again, just looking statistically, right? We dominated possession. We were in the attacking third most of the time. Lots of corners, lots of chance creation. Their goalkeeper did well, stood on his head. Again, should we have done better? Should we have done more? Absolutely. But like you mentioned, it was one of those things that you don't love it, but you take it and you move, right? 3 points. That's all we needed. It wasn't pretty, but we'll figure it out, right? Then, I mean, I don't want to jump. I don't know if we want to jump straight into the other game, but that Bolivia game.
Jump right into the game.
Want to jump right into it? Well,
yeah.
What? I don't even know what to ask you about that game because it was such a nightmare all over the place. Just go ahead and give me thoughts, give me reactions, and
so I had really one major kind of thought process throughout the whole time after the game, and it was just the level of, or I guess I should say, the lack of maturity in the team. Like, we constantly hear about, this is the youngest USMNT team at this tournament ever, or like, this is the second youngest team ever. This guy's like one of the youngest ever to score at Copa. This guy's like one of the youngest to play at the World Cup. And quite frankly, it shows, because good Lord, this team just feels so immature at times. Like, the mentality of this team versus the mentality of like the 2014 US team that's in the World Cup is night and day. There's no, you could correct me if you think I'm wrong on this. There's no way that Tim Howard or Clint Dempsey lets someone like Tim Weah get away with something like that in a tournament like this. No shot. They would 100% hold him accountable. But I don't see anybody on this team, Gregg included, that would hold him accountable for something like this. Not to the level that it should be, because that red card literally pretty much changed it quite possibly ruined the entire Copa America for the US. Like, one play, like literally less than like a couple seconds, basically ruined the entire Copa America for the entire US. And you could say what you want about Gregg and his tactics after we went a man down, and I'm not gonna argue either way against Gregg's tactical style, playing with 10 men for 70 plus minutes, but I just think the countless amount of dumb red cards I've seen this team get over the last couple of years is insane, and just shows that there is not enough of a strong leadership presence in the team. And I think that's not just on the older players on the team. I think that's on Gregg too. I think it's way too much in this team of like, oh, we're all best friends. Like, we're not gonna be tough on each other. And I feel like it's showing in the way that they carry themselves on the field. And I definitely want to hear what you think on their mentality. If you think I'm wrong, definitely tell me, because I'd rather hear that I'm wrong if you think I am.
because I'm always right and you want to agree with me. I get that. No, I think you put it really well, and we're going to talk Gregg specifically here at some point. But it's a great point, right? The mentality is disappointing. That's the term I'll use, right? Where everybody's bragging about, oh, look, we're in these top 5 leagues. We're all so good. Look at all the players we have playing in the UEFA Champions League and this stuff. And they're gonna walk around like, oh, this is who we are. And then some dude from the Panamanian League is bumping you off the ball and you're gonna punch him in the face. Like, I don't care what league you play in, you can't. And even especially if you're playing in these top leagues, you can't drop to that level ever, right? You need to be above that level and utilize your skills and your ability to be better than that. And disappointing in that sense, absolutely. To speak to the game itself, we responded. We started off well, as expected. We were on the front foot. Then the red card happens, and now instantly we need to make adjustments, right? I was curious to notice the five in the back. I think I mentioned it because Gio Reyna was sliding in as a fifth defender at that point. Yes, you're giving up certain areas of the field for others. Do I think we should have taken a central midfielder and done that? No. I don't think that was the right decision. I think it was a bit too conservative for the moment. They weren't pressing us that hard. They were still trying to play better than just wide ball, wide ball, wide ball. So we could have dominated the midfield a little bit more and then gotten into half and then adjusted from there, right? We go out, we score that goal on the counter. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant by Balogun, who is showing game by game a little bit more of what he can do. And I really, really enjoy it. But going back to your mentality point, 4 minutes later, we get beat in transition again because we got a bunch of midfielders who are just like, well, on my big fancy European team, somebody else is doing that work, so I don't have to do it. Dude runs by us. We've got five defenders. None of them want to step. Again, talking about giving up that midfield space. We could have put somebody in there to clog that a little bit better, right? And then just shift out wide if we have to. I think we were in a 4-4-1 at that point because the two wide players had tucked a bit deeper, or rather the one wide player because Weah was there. So Gio Reyna went a little bit wider and then tucked in, right? Which was fine. If we needed Gio to slide in and win the ball, he could win it centrally. If we needed him to go out wide and cover and prevent crosses, he could have done that too. Did we need him to go all the way back to a right back? I don't think so. But that was the decision that was made. And again, we'll talk about Gregg and his decisions in a little bit. But the mentality to go up a goal, down a man, and not look at each other and say, we are seeing this out, and then 4 minutes later to concede is brutally, brutally bad.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least. I thought the 4-4-1, it was definitely, in my opinion, I don't think it would have lasted in the second half. I think the changes were necessary. The way they were getting so much space on out wide was great. Like they were just whipping in crosses all day long. And I just don't think the guys in the back line could have done that. Like just headed the ball away in one headers for an entire 45 plus in the second half on top of whatever they were doing in the first half. So I think bringing on and going five in the back I feel like it was necessary. But I do agree that I think just in general, we were a bit too passive. And I think they were very comfortable with the 1-1 and wanted to see that out. But I mean, even on 10, like you have the better players out there. I'm not going to say down a man, they're the better team. But you have the better players out there. At least give them a chance. Like set the team up in some way, shape, or form where you could have the opportunity to counter. But, I've seen people criticize Gregg for the team's inability to counterattack. And I quite frankly can't disagree. And I think this game is an absolute showcase for that because I feel like, especially in the second half, I mean, outside of one chance that we may talk about in a bit, if we don't, I'll bring it up again. I don't feel like we were very threatening, like outside of like one, maybe two moments. But otherwise, it was just like defend, defend, defend. And I get it. You're down to 10. Like that's going to be a bit part of the course. But I still feel like we were on the back foot just based on the way that we were playing tactically for majority of that time.
Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. Like, I understand the thought process, right? You get out of there. At that point, you're up 1-0. You get out of there 1-0, you're in. You get out of there 1-1. Panama's got a point. You've got 4. You need 1 point against Uruguay and you're safe. Like, I get the mindset. I just think the mindset was applied a bit too early. And again, I've coached in situations like that. It's a difficult thing to do on the fly, right? You don't have these. We're talking about this 24 hours later. You don't have 24 hours to look back like, ooh, maybe this is too early to do that, right? Or should he have gone and made a sub, right? You only get 5 subs, 3 windows. Should I use one of them right now? That's stuff that and everybody's like, oh, red cards happen all the time. You need to be prepared for that stuff. No, that's never a part of the game plan. You're never going into a game plan thinking, okay, if this player gets sent off, how are we going to adjust? That's never part of the game plan, ever. So I'm not saying that he couldn't have handled it better, because I think he could have. But I also understand the difficulty of the situation. My problem with what he did was his second half changes, where he stuck with that shape, which was fine. I was, if that was the shape we're going to go with. But the players he added in, I think, brought the level down. So obviously there was a Matt Turner injury. You couldn't help that. Um, you know, and we won't even. I don't know how much you want to talk about the referee, but the referee was atrocious. However, we lost the goalkeeper because the referee allowed him to get cleaned out. We didn't lose a game because of the referee, but he played a part in it, right? You pulled out Tyler Adams for Johnny Cardoso, which again, in the moment, I know you're trying to save him long term. I know you're focused. This is like a prep for the World Cup. I get it. But man, when you need somebody who's just going to run that midfield and win the ball back and do the dirty work that most people aren't going to do, that's the guy you want on the field. And to remove him again, I understand the whole like I gotta keep them fit for the long term type of thing, but you got to win this game, or you at least got to get a point out of this game. And then Cameron Carter-Vickers for Gio Reyna. Again, I didn't think Gio Reyna was going to be successful playing out wide in this right back role. He wasn't great marking in the middle either. He wasn't quick enough or mentally switched on enough as a defensive player, right? So I get the shift. But man, how many more times we need to see Cameron Carter-Vickers be garbage before we realize that he is not at the level?
Yeah, he's a little too fast and loose for my liking at times. Like
and this is a second. I mean, he did it against Colombia. He was terrible against Colombia. I mean, like I would have taken Aaron Long over Cameron Carter-Vickers at this point. Because my goodness, he gave the ball away every single time against Colombia. He nearly gave away a penalty. He's diving into challenges inside his own 18-yard box. He's falling asleep on easy marking situations in his own 6-yard box. Like, I get it. He plays in Scotland, one of the best teams in Scotland. I get it. He plays in the Champions League. I get it. But once, and this is stuff we've talked about the men's national team for a while. Your form has to translate to the group. If it doesn't, you don't fit. He doesn't fit me.
How dare you not talk about how Scotland is miles clear of MLS, and therefore he deserves an instant spot ahead of half the guys on the team. Cameron Carter-Vickers hasn't stepped foot in the U.S., or I shouldn't say it. He hasn't stepped foot on an MLS team. Therefore, he is miles clear of almost every person on the team.
Yeah, dude. I mean, listen, he's got, he plays one good team every year, twice. That's great. Like, how do you turn that down? No, dude. Like, and again, actually, and I got to go back on a statement, right? Because I made the same comment at the beginning when we were previewing this whole thing, saying I think he's the number 3 guy, or even the number 2 guy next to Tim Ream, or Chris Richards, whoever it may be. I came out and said that. I was brutally wrong. Because I remember earlier in his time here, he was a solid in the air defender. He was decent on the ball. He had good recovery speed. There were things that I liked about it. None of it has been shown in the last 2 appearances that he's made, and it's frustrating because we have 5 center backs in this camp. You could go with any of the other 2, and we're still going to the same well. And again, you're looking at the penalty that we, again, he didn't concede, but he got real close to it. And then a European-based Champions League player in the 90 or the 85th minute of a must-see-out game. The ball is on the right flank, and he's looking up the field, directing where the striker should be, while the guy runs in front of him and scores the goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just disappointing because all I've heard for the last, I don't even know how long, this is a team full of players in the top leagues in Europe. Everybody in this team plays on a group that has pro rel. Everything about European soccer is better than MLS. And this is the quality that's bringing us. I'm not here saying that everybody needs to come back to MLS. I'm not saying that everybody in MLS is clear. But we need to stop putting all this heaping praise on players just because of the country they live in and play in. Because quite clearly, it hasn't translated to success. And whether that be because they're not meshing with the coach, whether that be because the coach is trying to get them hyped and they're looking at them saying, we play at Juventus and Milan and I don't even know.
I can't even where our players play for.
I was trying to think of the
Monaco.
Netherlands team. Yeah, Monaco for Balogun and PSV. But I don't need to listen to the coach, right? Maybe they're all like, oh, I play on these big teams and Gregg isn't as good as their managers. So I don't need to listen to him, right? I have that happen all the time with my group where they come in and they think they know more than us, and then we get beat. I don't know what it is, but goodness me, we need to stop looking at them being the perfect poster child for what we're doing and start holding them accountable. Because I promise you, Gregg's got his problems. And I promise you that Gregg maybe could have handled Panama better. But I also promise you that Gregg did not go out to Tim Weah and say, hey, punch that dude in the head, get sent off, and let's test ourselves and see how good we are against 11 men. And he didn't tell Cameron Carter-Vickers to go dive into every challenge when he put him on the field and forget to mark your man. Like, these are things that you can't, that aren't coaching things. Gregg's got 900 other problems. But if we don't focus on the people, and we've talked about this last episode, we don't focus on the people and the players on the field not doing the job that isn't tactic related, that is mentality related, that is just basic knowing your positional and role responsibility related. If they can't do the basics, no coach is going to fix them. We are not as good as people want us to believe we are. End of story.
I will hold off on my end from saying anything on the players until I can like properly see them with at least another coach. Like if another coach came in and it's the same things, then yeah, I definitely would start to point the finger at the players. But um, I do genuinely think that the coach could have like a large enough impact on this that it could just be that he's not commanding the team well enough or tactically running the team well enough. So
No, and again,
me.
I'm not. Let me just clarify. I'm not absolving Gregg of anything. Like
Mhm.
he hasn't been good enough. And again, if and when we don't get out of this group, he needs to go. Like I'm not trying to defend him and say, oh, keep him around for World Cup. If and when we don't get out of this group, even if we magically get out of this group and it's based off of a whole bunch of luck, he's got to go. Like he's not the guy for the job, and we can't waste the preparation where these guys are going to have 2 more years of experience under the belt at a World Cup where we won't be successful. However, there's and as we've spoken about before, there are more problems in this team than just the coach. This game, the Panama game, is not a full indictment on, oh, Gregg needs, this is the game that makes me say Gregg out, right? He was put in a tough position. He made changes that weren't that great. He's got 6 years of games that you can pick at, say, that's the game he didn't do well enough. This is a game that didn't do well enough. No big wins yet. No wins overseas. So many other things. I'm not saying the Panama game is what broke the straw that broke the camel's back. But there are more problems than just the coach. The players need to start holding themselves accountable. I mean, you mentioned it, right? Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey never let this happen. And I 100% agree with you. Who's the guy in there who's walking into that room and saying, this is on you guys. This is on us. We messed this up. Not the coach, not the referee, not us. We didn't do our job. Because I have a weird feeling that there's probably one person who's thinking that, but everybody else sitting there saying, oh man, the referee screwed us, or oh man, Gregg doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm sitting here on the bench and I could be on there playing. It just feels not great right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I would 100% agree. There's more to it than the coach, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we get a changing coach, and we'll see if things actually take as much of a shift as I'm sure plenty of people think it will.
Well, I did mention what I thought was going to happen. Your thoughts on the Gregg situation. What does it take for you to keep him on? What do you think of him right now? Like your honest thoughts. Like give me something on Gregg. What is it going to take for him to stick around for you?
I'd probably say the same thing at the start, like the same goals at the start. I think he's got to get semifinals. He's got to get his way out of this group, out of this mess. I mean, I think actually probably it would almost surely have to be through beating Uruguay. I mean, it would take like a miracle just to get like a point, and he'd have to cross your fingers for a Bolivia win. But then even beyond that, I think he still has to win the first knockout game, whether it's against Colombia or Brazil. I don't really care. Got to win that game. So I'm still sticking on he's got to at least get to semifinals, but it's looking ever so dire that that's going to happen at this point.
I think that's exactly where I'm at, where you need to get some signature wins and show that you can do the job at a high level. Right. No more beating the mid Mexico teams, no more beating the small island nations. Like when push comes to shove and you need to step up and do your job, what are you going to do? How are you going to rebound from that? And that is going to involve beating a very good Uruguay team to get in. And then, I mean, and here's the deal. Right now, it's going to be if we finish second, it's going to be Colombia who murdered us. So you're going to have to fix that. Or if again magic persists, it is going to be depending on the result of Brazil Paraguay, and Brazil very underwhelming right now. It's going to be any one of Brazil, Costa Rica, Paraguay, right? And Costa Rica is looking Paraguay is looking So it will be very interesting to see who that would end up being, but it won't matter if we don't get the job done first. So agree with you there. And again, I kind of highlighted, and you may be able to share some more things. Like I wasn't thrilled with the way that he handled that, as we've talked about before. I think he went 5 in the back too early. I understand why he didn't push as much, though, right? This United States team is notorious for being terrible in defensive transition, which is tough when you're 11v11. When you're down to man, it's even worse, right? Especially when you've got teams like Panama who are just going to hit and hit and hit and hit, and once they get away with one, they're going to get on the end of it, right? So I understand the idea that he's not saying, okay, we're going to go and try and catch him on the counter, because once we lose the ball, now it's 4v6 the other way, and we're ruined, right? That being said, his shift in the second half, where he went to 5 in the back but encouraged his wing backs higher, I liked that he wasn't just sitting in the whole time. I know people are like, oh, we bunkered the whole time. We bunkered the whole time because we couldn't hold the ball, right? Because of the player personnel. And again, I think he messed the subs up, whether it be for, Tyler Adams needing to be long term or whatever. But I saw moments where he was trying to get forward, but it just wasn't coming off. But it's still not the right response. And we've talked about why. Again, I think against Bolivia, you can say, oh, we saw a lot of good things and his tactics worked. Brazil, I think we saw a lot of good things and his tactic worked, but Colombia, they only worked for a little bit, right? So you've got this little up and down, maybe good, maybe not good, and you cannot have that coming into a World Cup or anything, any sort of friendlies or whatever. It's disappointing.
Well, maybe I can transition us into the last section, but I think this game against Uruguay coming up is a big time Gregg legacy game. And I don't mean that to be like, oh, like if he wins it, he'll save his legacy and he'll all of a sudden be enshrined in the USMNT Hall of Fame. But it's going to be a game, win or lose, that people are going to remember on his resume for many years, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be big time for him. There's, I think, the pressure of the world on him for this next game, potentially for his job. So,
oh yeah, it's definitely for his job. And somehow Google has us at a 39% win probability over Uruguay's 32.
They think nice. We're going to win.
Yeah, that's wild.
That is pretty wild.
The idea that we just talked about. I'll tie it back into the Gregg thing, right? If Gregg wins this game, if Gregg beats Brazil, Colombia, if Gregg goes all the way to the final and plays Argentina, we may not be happy because he's had a disappointing showing of it, but I believe he will have earned his spot to stick around if that happens. It's a very low probability, but we're all out here talking. He needs to win big games. He needs to show up on the big stages. That would show in times of adversity, he gets the team to play together and get results against very good teams. He will have earned it. It will suck because he will still be relatively mid, but he'll check all the boxes that everybody's been calling for the last, year and a half, right? He needs to win big games. He needs to do it on the biggest stage, blah, blah, blah. If he does it, then you can't complain anymore. He's done what you've asked. Now I know the goalposts will shift because everybody wants to be, you know, correct whenever they're upset, and everyone wants to be upset, and that's fine. But if he does what he can do, then there's no complaints, right? Unless again he goes and does that, and then we go get these friendlies against Canada and them, and then just bomb those, right? Then we can have this conversation again. But if he puts a team on a winning streak, then we have to live with the fact that he's checked the boxes, and now we're gonna have to deal with him anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets to the finals, then you got to give him more time with the team. Then, I mean, that's like you said, that's big win after big win after big win. Like you're not getting to the finals with the US side of the bracket without going through like tough game after tough game. So if he gets there, then I do think he deserves more time as well. As much, and I fully agree with you. I wouldn't be thrilled about it because I agree that I think he's still mid, even if he does go on a run here. But he did what you asked him to do. So I can't see why you'd can him for that.
Right, right. And at the end of the day, you're going to be upset anyway because you wanted him out, and you set these bars you thought he couldn't hit, and then he hits them. And it's like, well, wait, no, he still needs to go. Well, he's hit the bar, and again, when we say you want them to hit, I bet you that U.S. Soccer has some bar that it's like if you go below this, you're out. Now, is that bar through the floor? Probably, because he's still here. But
if you show up to Copa America, you did your job.
if you could get there safely in your own dang country,
just
gold
don't lose
star
to
for you.
Bolivia.
Yeah, if they lost to Bolivia, they'd be like, "Oh, you got one more chance. You got one more chance."
One more.
Right, and it's disappointing, sure, but again, that's going to be the thing we have to live with. So, Uruguay, yikes, absolutely
Took the
destroyed
words right
Bolivia.
out of my mouth.
Absolutely destroyed Bolivia. 5 different goal scorers. Again, they scored early and they scored a lot late, kind of like Colombia did to us. But 60% possession, they only conceded 1 shot on target. It's not a shock. They did what they did. They're very good in transition. They've got Bielsa ball, high energy. The only thing that we may have going for them, or for us, is with the top of the group locked up and a very big goal differential, it may be a rotation game for them. So, with that in mind, your thoughts on the upcoming game?
Good Lord, I hope it's a rotation game for them, but I feel like Bielsa's not the type to rotate. And to be completely honest, I feel like even if they rotate, they'd still smack us. They got some depth on this team. If Luis Suarez and Rodrigo Betancourt and Georgian de Arsketa, if those are your rotation guys to bring in, I think we're still getting smacked up and down the field. They have Jose Maria Jimenez as well, Sebastian Cáceres. Like they got a stacked bench too. I think regardless, even if they rotate, we're gonna have a tough game. But if they don't, it's gonna take some insane Gregg masterclass to get out of this one. Like I think Uruguay is up there as a tournament favorite. Like at everybody in the tournament, they might be one of, if not the favorite, maybe after Argentina. Considering how much Brazil is struggling, I think they're probably number 2 favorite. So not looking so hot for us, to say the least.
Well, let me ask you, how do you approach this game? Do you bunker and try and counter? Do you try and press high, win the ball? How would you go about it?
I would definitely not want to bunker and try to counter because this team is just so incapable of countering. And I don't know if that's a Gregg problem or if it's a personnel problem, but this team cannot counter. So I don't want to bunker and counter because I don't trust our defense to hold up for that entire time we're bunkering. This is a different team than Brazil. This is a team that will finish their chances. So if they're creating Brazil-like chances, they will put 4 or 5 past you. They will not only put 1. So I definitely don't want to bunker and try to counter because 1, I don't think the defense will hold up. 2, I don't trust our team to counter on the attack. I guess I would say press. I think we have the team that can press for the full game. Like I think we have a starting team that could do a decent job pressing, and then we have really good options off the bench for guys that can press the ball really well and win it. So if I'm going between those two, that's probably the way I'd lean. To be honest, I'm not sure what the best tactical approach here is, other than cross your fingers and pray that you get some lucky goals and just maybe the bunkering works for once. But I would probably lean towards the press as definitely over the bunker, in my opinion.
See, I disagree with you, right? Because and bunker might be the wrong word, but playing for the counter, I think, is the correct option because of how just all out go that I've seen clips from this Uruguay team. They just send it and send it and send it. They leave themselves exposed, right? Pulisic can take advantage of that. If you're playing Reyna on the wing, he can take advantage of that. Would we love Jordan Morris to do open into that space? Absolutely. But again, Greg out, doesn't know how to select a team.
Give me some Paul Areola while you're at it.
Amen. However, when we played against Brazil and we didn't bomb our outside backs forward and we didn't try and create overloads in there and we sat in a little bit more and played once we retained the ball in the middle third or closer towards our defensive third instead of trying to win it high, that's when I think we looked a little bit better. So against this team, because you need to win the game, but you also, I mean, you can't concede. You just can't concede, because if you concede, it's over. But if we play for free kicks, because we've done well on set pieces, if we're attacking in transition, preventing ourselves from getting caught in defensive transition, which we're very bad at, we might stand a chance. And that's what we did against Brazil. I think that's what we do here, where you're not going to see the Robinson and the Scally bombing up the wings once we receive the ball, because our center backs can't play out with no pressure, let alone whatever pressure Uruguay is going to send us. Our holding mids struggle to keep the ball. We try to turn and dribble out of pressure consistently. And if we get our wing backs higher, we're going to just get countered. So I think you sit them back and you try and play for long diagonals and you try and see if you can win a knockdown or two, maybe win a free kick, and see where you go from there.
I think if you try to play too defensive, Darwin Nunez is going to run laps across this defense, which is a wild statement to say when you look at him at the club level. But when that dude puts an Uruguay shirt on, he just turns into prime Luis Suarez. Like he's on like what 7 or 8 straight games scoring for them. Like it's something insane. And I do not in the slightest form see Tim Ream or Chris Richards stopping him from that form. And I think if we invite the pressure, it's just going to be even worse. So I guess we're in disagreement on it. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how Greg throws him out there and see what performs well. I don't see a lot of counterattacking guys in the lineup. Like it's not that they don't have speed to counterattack, but I just don't think that's their play style. Except maybe I could see maybe Weah, but I don't think like Balogun is my ideal counterattacking striker. I don't think Pooley's my ideal counterattacking winger. Not that they can't do it, but I just think that's not their go-to game style.
I think, and then I mentioned Reyna before, the this might be a really fun game for Haji Wright to get some minutes out on the wing where he's played before, in transition where we're going to have him in, winning longer aerial balls, right? Or play him up top instead of Balogun, right? Or play a two striker system where you've got one where you can hit the target man up high, right? And let Balogun run in underneath. I think there are a couple different ways this could be really good. And now I'm getting a bit excited. So predictions for the game.
What I before I do the predictions, what I will ask you, and I'll give my opinion before as well. Who do you think comes in for Tim Weah? And maybe you answered that with the Haji point here, but I would not be surprised the team dropped back into that 4-3-3 they played with for God, I don't even remember how long ago it was. Maybe a year ago. And you go Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, and then you go Reyna, Pooley on the wings. And I think even if Balogun isn't good for a counterattack, there's no way you sit the guy right now. Like he's in great form. You absolutely start Balogun up top. He'll make something happen. But I think Musa probably comes in for Weah and you shift to a 4-3-3. And then prediction wise, I really want to be optimistic and hope that we can pull off some miracle. But if Uruguay tries, I think they're gonna smack us. It's gonna be like 3-1 if they try. If they don't try, I honestly still don't think we could beat them, but maybe we can muster out a draw and hope for some Bolivian magic.
I really, really want to feel confident here, as you just said. There's just something about it that, we're out here talking about it. Oh, we never do this, we never do this. And, it's kind of the same feeling in 2014 where we're like, oh, we're a group of death. We're gonna get grouped. We're gonna get grouped. We found a way out of it. And Gregg hasn't really had that yet. Maybe he's due for one. And we would need to win by, 7 goals to get first place. So or 4 goals to get first place. So it's not happening. But with the rotation I predict that I think is going to come, and the kind of you have to win. We've seen them play again and again. Mexico's a bad comparison tool, but we've seen them play games against competition at their level where you have to win and you have to step up and you need to do the dirty things and do the job properly. And they've always stepped up to that challenge every single time. So I am going to go with a prediction that says 2-1 United States. We're going to move on in the second place spot because we have to. And when we have to, we always step up.
If we win, we'd have to still have Panama at least draw, right?
If we win, we need Panama to either draw or win by less than less than 2. Like if we win 2-1, they can't win by 4.
Mm-hmm.
They can't win by 3.
Gotcha.
No, it is 4. I'm sorry. They can't win by 4. So if we add 1, we're at a +2. They're at -1. So they would need to have 4 to get to a +3.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. I forgot about that. Yep.
I'll be the crazy guy.
I love your optimism. I hope you're right. Just everything in my being says that it's never going to happen.
Well, we will have to wait and see. We are posting this right before the game, so everybody cross your fingers if you're listening to it before the game. Jump on with us on Twitter as we're watching the game, and let's see what we can do. Go USA! Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time in the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.